Hey everyone, and welcome to our Thursday edition. It's been a long time, Amadeus coming, but we have got 11 football games on a Thursday night. That, my friend, is not normal, but we'll take it. It's been a long time to college football. We got three decent ones, as a matter of fact, three ones that should be of some note.
Yeah, it's finally here, Jim. It's a big Thursday. It's a big Friday tomorrow. You know, it's going to be a massive Saturday, and we even got some college football trickling into Sunday and Monday. So it's one of
Absolutely.
those where if you've been waiting all summer for your football fix, well, here it
Well,
is. Come and get it.
absolutely. All right, let's. You want to run down the games one at a time, or how do you want to do this? We can do the big ones first, or how? I'm up for anything here.
Yeah, we could talk about today's games first, and then maybe touch on some of the big games.
Okay. We got Kent State at University of Central Florida. That game is on FS1. Kickoff is at 7 o'clock. It's in Orlando. Fortunately for those of you in the Orlando area, the hurricane was not as bad as it certainly could have been, and so that game is on tonight at the Bounce House, is what they call the place. Eric Collins has the call, and Devin Gardner on FS1. So that's the first one. It's the first UCF game now that they are a member of the Big 12. So, ironically, they used to actually be a member of the MAC, which is where Kent State is from. So, and again, Gus Malzone, who's coaching UCF, has had a pretty decent recruiting class. It should be a very interesting game between Kent State and UCF.
Yeah, this is one where there's a lot of factors. Obviously, you have the weather factor now with the winds and possibly rain for this game that you have to take into account. But yeah, as you said, it's at the Bounce House where we know it's a lively environment for sure. And this is a high flying offense that can score a lot of points. So
Mhm.
Central Florida comes in as a 35 and a half point favorite tonight.
Wow.
And yeah, it's as you said, they've joined a new conference now. They're in the Big 12. They're finally one of the big boys, and I'm sure they'll want to come out strong. This Kent State team, they lost a lot of talent in the transfer portal this year, so it'll be interesting to see how they come out. But as you mentioned on a previous show, MAC teams always show up and they're always prepared. So I could see this one being an over just because it's 55 points, and we
Yeah,
know Central Florida is going to score.
it could.
Um, yeah, as long as Kent State contributes, a few points here and there, this one should hit 55 no problem, assuming the winds and rain isn't going to be a big issue.
Mhm. All right, so Elon and Wake Forest. That game's a 7 o'clock kick on the ACC network. Drew Carter and Dustin Fox on the call for the ACC network. Wake at home should be able to pull this one off. They've had some. They've been consistent in the ACC as recent and kind of flown under the radar because year in and year out, I think for about the last 5-6 years, they've been a bowl team. They've been a team that has won a couple times, 8, 9, 10 games. So
Yeah.
they're not I mean, Wake Forest is not a pushover, and Elon, of course, is they went down to FBS and this is a game for Elon to come to Wake Forest and pick up a check, which is not a bad thing. But I don't see Elon beating Wake Forest.
Yeah, and as you said, this Wake Forest team has been really good over the last few years. They've been a 9-win team. They've been putting up those surprising seasons. They were even going for the conference title, I remember, against Clemson like a year or two ago. But yeah, this is an interesting one because they're at home, and so the lines finally came out today for these
Okay.
games. And yeah, usually with the FCS matchups, you don't
Mhm.
get the lines until day of, and there's nothing for tomorrow or Saturday. I only see today's 4 FBS FCS matchups, and they're only a 26-point favorite at home, which really, surprises me a bit because I definitely think Wake Forest is the kind of team that could put up 40,
Mhm.
50 points on this Elon defense. So and the total's only 49 in this one. So that is very curious to me because Wake Forest could easily score 50 themselves.
Yeah, they don't need help there. Here's a game I can honestly say I have absolutely no idea about. I don't know the teams well enough to even, offer a guess. It's on ESPN Plus at 7:00. It's Rhode Island and Georgia State. Those are two teams that I just I have zero knowledge of their of what they've got going tonight. Georgia State is basically it's a commuter school in Atlanta. I know they're building a program. They retrofitted the old Turner Stadium there in Atlanta where the Braves used to play. And that's where Georgia State plays their games now. I have zero idea of what Rhode Island is like. So sorry about this. I have no clue on this game between Georgia State and Rhode Island. Is there even on it?
Yeah, another one of those FCS, FBS matchups here.
Yeah.
So Georgia State comes in as an 18.5-point favorite.
Okay.
Now, obviously, Georgia State's the better team, the FBS program. They should win this game at home, but 18.5, I'm not sure about that one. The total is 58 in this one. So they're expecting the teams to score some points here. So I'm with you. I don't know much about this Rhode Island team. Like I said, we can't really handicap the FCS too much. The lines come out day of, but that might be one to watch just because clearly the books are expecting some points there. So maybe it's a much closer game than we expect.
Maybe they know something we don't in this case. Okay, let's go. The next one is St. Francis of Pennsylvania. Now, it's a small school, but they consistently play solid football, and they're playing at Western Michigan, another team in the a MAC team that also plays very solid football. That's a 7 p.m. kick. It's on ESPN Plus. Dan Grigowski on the call with Marcus Ray. St. Francis is in that conference with Slippery Rock and those teams, which year in and year out, they play competitive football. But we know the MAC and Western Michigan, so I would think, again, the home team in this case with Western Michigan, I don't see St. Francis traveling up to Western Michigan and coming away with a win.
Yeah, so obviously Western Michigan has the home advantage here, and they're the better team coming from as the FBS program coming from the MAC. Now they're a 14.5-point favorite in this game, and that does worry me a bit with that hook, that 14.5, just because now obviously you need them to win really by 3 scores if you take Western Michigan. Yeah. And Western Michigan, they weren't great. They did have some upsets last year, but overall they weren't a great team when playing against other MAC opponents. So, and as you said, the St. Francis team, they tend to put out some good football every year. So wouldn't be shocking to me. Obviously, Western Michigan should win the game, being the FBS school and then the better program here. But wouldn't shock me if St. Francis does keep this game a little closer within the 2 touchdowns.
Probably too close for Western Michigan's. St. Francis in that conference, and for those who don't know, I mean, basically, there's a lot of kids that want to play at a small school, and they like the idea of playing at a small school. So there's a lot of kids there from Pennsylvania that might have been at Pitt or it might have been at Penn State or Temple or one of those schools, but they end up at St. Francis usually, and Slippery Rock and some of the other places. And it's just they. I mean, talent-wise, they can probably match up one on. If you're putting your 11 out there, and Western Michigan's putting out their 11 out there, Their St. Francis is probably not that much different than Western Michigan when you're talking about your 11s on defense and offense. It's where the depth is. That's usually where a team like a Western Michigan would have an advantage over St. Francis in so much as once you go into this down your depth chart to your second or third position, it's usually not as good as say Western Michigan could have 2 or 3 players that are very talented at one spot. St. Francis isn't going to have that. They're going to have one guy who's really good and 2 or 3 guys who can, you can play, but not at a level that's going to help them beat a Western Michigan. But I like you. I'm not crazy about, and opening games are wonky anyway. So I don't know. I think the kids aren't back in school yet, and so you're playing out there, and it's not a jazzed up place. From that standpoint. So yeah, I can see where that would be a little bit of a toughie to call. But I think Western Michigan wins, but I like you. The 14 points scare me a little bit because that means the odds makers think St. Francis is either Western Michigan isn't good or that St. Francis is good enough to hang.
Yeah, and especially that 14.5, right? Like now, if you're taking Western Michigan, now you're asking for like a 17-point win or something like that, and it can get messy near the end of those games for sure.
Right. And those MAC teams throw the ball all over the place, so that's sometimes it even goes to their players. So it's tough. Here's one from the. It's NC State at Connecticut. That's a 7:30 game. It's on CBSN. Ed Cohen with the call with Christian Fertitta. Just a quick hack for those of you who want to watch the game, because CBSN, which is CBS Sports Network, okay, there's CBS, which we all know, there's Paramount Plus, all that. The best way to watch this game, if you are interested in NC State and Connecticut or any game that CBSN televises, you can watch it for free. All you have to do is either go to the CBS Sports website on your computer, or if you download the CBS Sports app, it's on your phone, tablet, or whatever. So you can watch these games for free if you wish. So if you want to watch UConn and NC State play, then you can do it on the CBSN app, which is what I do. But if you're interested, so. There's that. UConn committed to, for a long time, UConn didn't care about football. They only cared about basketball. And then they decided, okay, if we're going to get into a new conference, right? If we want to upgrade to be part of a series conference, we have to have a better football team. So with that in mind, they went out and they hired. Why am I blanking on the guy's name? Hold on just a second. I want to
Jim Mora.
Jim Mora, thank you, Jim Mora Jr. And so ever since they did that, they've played much better and they've recruited well. NC State's been hit and miss the last few years. So is the line on this game in my mind, and I don't even know, I'm going to leave it to you, but I'm guessing the line on this game is pretty within 2 touchdowns easily, maybe 10 points.
You nailed it, Jim. It opened at around like a 14.5 for NC State, and now it is right. They've dropped the hook, so it's right on 14 is the line, minus 14 for this NC State team.
Yeah, I mean Connecticut. When you play, remember that Connecticut is an independent. Okay, so if Connecticut wants to get any love at all. And I know that they want desperately to join a conference. You got to beat teams like NC State if you have that opportunity. So I think Connecticut, if they don't cover, they should cover, I should say. And not only that, I think not only should they cover, they may just win this thing. So we'll see. But I don't think NC State has been as good it's been 3 or 4 years since NC State's been, representative in that regard. So we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. So this UConn team is much improved, Jim, and Jim Mora has really turned this program around since getting there for sure. They went to a bowl game last year. Now they lost in the bowl game, but yeah, there's a lot of these programs that were independents, like your New Mexico States,
Sure.
your UConns, and now even this season you're probably going to see UMass as a massive improvement. So these are not the same teams that were going 0-12, 1-11 kind of seasons. These are much improved teams. UConn went to a bowl game last year. Now, obviously, they lost that bowl game, but they have a goal for this season, getting back to a bowl game and winning that bowl game for sure. So 100%, they're the home team here. They're getting 2 touchdowns in hand. I can't see this NC State team traveling up there and really putting up enough to cover this spread. And UConn, again, they have a much better defense, so they're not going to let NC State just run all over them. And on top of that, their offense is a lot better. So this isn't a game where you got to rely, UConn's only going to score 10 points. They can easily score 20, 30 points in this game. So especially being at home. So 100%, I would go with UConn and the points in this one.
All right, we're going to skip over a couple of big ones because we'll come back to them. South Dakota at Missouri. That's an 8 p.m. kick on the SEC network. Clay Maverick is on the call with Aaron Murray. I'm trying to no. Okay, I was thinking that it's North Dakota. It's the Division II champion basically every year. That I'm thinking of. I don't think it's South Dakota. What's the line?
The states usually. It's South Dakota State and North Dakota State.
Oh, okay. I didn't go directional on that.
The Jackrabbits, not the Coyotes here.
Not these guys. Yeah. Okay. Enough said. Okay. Missouri's supposed to have a decent team this year in the SEC. So they're playing the game at Missouri. I got to think Missouri's a prohibitive favorite in this one. Yeah,
so Missouri's a 29.5 point favorite.
That would be prohibitive. Yeah. My understanding with Missouri is that they have a quarterback battle going on, that they've got a quarterback who's a good passer, but they also have a good quarterback who predominantly runs. So we might very well see 2 quarterbacks in the same game against South Dakota, one passing quarterback and one running quarterback. Or maybe what they do is they have wildcat, packages in for the quarterback who can run, and they keep both quarterbacks on the field. So I don't know, but I do think Missouri's, is Missouri 29 points better than South Dakota? Again, the one thing I'd like your opinion on this. First games, to me, when you're given a ton of points away, that's a little tough because both of these teams, it's not like the NFL where you have preseason. You really don't know till you get out there and get hit and begin the process, whether you're as good as you thought you were in practice. And so I tend to concern myself if I have to give a lot of points because there's just too many unknowns.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of people don't like to play the big spread games at all, even just in the bulk of the season, right? Like there's a lot of those, like the Alabamas and the Ohio States. They're close to 40-point favorites this weekend. So those are games, especially in the first game. I totally agree with you because especially if you have a new coach or just some new players, you're not going to always put it together for the very first game just because you've been doing it well in practice, right? So I do agree with you. It's always good to take the points in some of these big spread games, especially. But I don't know, with this one specifically, I almost lean to Missouri just because they're the SEC program, and they should win this game by a hefty amount over South Dakota. As we mentioned, this isn't the good teams from the Dakotas, so and now you gotta travel on the road at an SEC program. I know it's only Missouri, but they're still an SEC program. Yeah, so they should win this one by the 30.
All right, so UAPB against Tulsa. That game's 8 o'clock, ESPN Plus, James Wassling and Ledger Dozible on the call. Tulsa, I mean, Tulsa should win. They're preseason number 4 in the American, but they bring a lot of kids back, and so I would think Tulsa would be. And playing, I've been out there and done a game at Tulsa. It is really, it's really hard to play out there because of the wind. It is just wicked, even this time of the year. And actually, this time of the year is tough too because you're talking about the heat that goes with it. So you're going to have, my guess is they're going to have temperatures, well into the 90s for game time. And so, maybe you could get a break. It's 87, 88, and the wind. So yeah, it's going to be tough. I don't know what the line is on the game, Tom.
So Tulsa is a 38.5 point favorite.
That's too much.
That is too much, Jim. I agree with you. Tulsa should win. They're the FBS program. They're at home here, but 40 points is a lot to ask from a team like Tulsa, who doesn't generally dominate the AAC every year.
Right. I mean, we're talking about the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, which is what UAPB means. It's not like those kids don't have uniforms and show up. As John McKay once told me, the other side gets scholarships too. So I'm guessing that that's about 38 points, man. That's a wild one. Okay, so you got you got North Carolina A&T, which is a historically black college, playing against University of Alabama, Birmingham, and UAB has been on the rise. They're making their first debut game as a member of the American Conference, and I think they would want to put their good foot forward in that game. It's an 8 p.m. kick, ESPN Plus, Richard Cross and Taylor McGow with the call on that one. So I'm gonna have to say that I don't know what the line is, but I think UAB will probably be favored to win that game.
Yeah, UAB is a 21-point favorite in this game, and they should probably clear that being at home here. As you said, shiny new team in their shiny new conference there, right? I think a lot of these teams that have moved to new conferences are going to be looking to come out of the gate strong here and really, put the pedal to the metal on a lot of these teams. And there's probably going to be teams like we mentioned how Alabama was a 40-point favorite. Like, there's probably going to be teams like that cover. I know Alabama never, they don't really cover large spreads like that, but they're pissed off. There's going to be a lot of teams that are just, upset. Josh Hoople is mad at the athletic poll that put him as a low tier coach. So there's going to be a lot of guys, as you mentioned, Texas and Oklahoma might just come out and smash everybody in their last year, the Big 12. So yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of points to prove, it seems like, in college football this year.
I don't think most of the big time coaches that I've ever been around in college football, they are very much aware of the spread. Spurrier used to even ask about it, how much, and not that he was going to bet on it, right? It was more about he wanted to know whether the team was being respected or not. I don't think these guys, and when I say these guys, I'm talking about the upper echelon coaches in college football. I don't think they want to be favored by as much as some of them end up being favored by. It's just like, it's like we're supposed to be a team by 48 points. Okay, well, we might and we probably will, but at the end of the day, if we don't, it makes us look bad. So they're not real crazy about these massive, 35, 36, 40 point, um, being a favorite in that realm, but they're going to get it anyway. Um, there's no way around it. But no, I don't think the coaches like it too much.
Yeah, and there's some that will use any point as motivation. I'll give you an example here. We have UTSA versus Houston on Saturday.
Right. Yeah.
And this is one where UTSA opened as a 1-point favorite on the road.
Ooh.
And the press conference I heard from Dana Holgerson, he was so bitter about it. He literally said, when he was asked about his team, he goes, "Everybody keeps telling me we're supposed to be bad this year. We opened the season as a 1-point," or he didn't even mention the spread. It is a 1-point, but he goes, "We opened the season as an underdog. You're just a 1-point underdog. It's pretty much a pick 'em." But he goes, "We opened the season as a home underdog. I can't wait to see them line up. Let's see how bad we are." He was very bitter about it, and it was only 1 point. So, yeah, 100%. Some coaches will hate it and others will use it to their motivation, get the team fired up for sure.
The last one we go to, and then we'll get to the big games. Southern Utah and Arizona State. Now, quick funny story. That's a 10 o'clock game on the Pac-12 network. Roxy Bernstein and Lincoln Kennedy on the call for that game. This morning earlier, I spoke to Spencer McLaughlin. Spencer is the radio voice of Southern Utah's football team, and they're going to face Arizona State in Tempe. And we spoke for 10 minutes. Okay, now this will give you a little bit of a clue. We spoke for 10 minutes. He didn't even mention Southern Utah in the entire conversation. Spencer was just going nuts because tonight, he's going to be able to see Jaden Rashada, who's going to be starting for Arizona State. Who's the freshman who, reportedly had been offered like $13 million by Florida, and $4 or $5 million from other schools, and then he went to Arizona State for nothing. He didn't take any NIL money. So he's excited to see Jaden Rashada, in a Sun Devils uniform, and didn't mention much about Utah State, which probably tells you a lot about Utah State. So there you go, folks. Very interesting situation from that standpoint. But yeah, I mean, Arizona State. This is they've got new coaches, they've got new quarterback. I don't think Southern Utah is going to win, but this Arizona State team may be a team that you don't want to sleep on.
Yeah, 100%. This Arizona State team, I've heard nothing but great things coming out of this program. They have high hopes for this season. Now, they're a 31.5-point favorite in this game. Yeah. So quite a bit points. That they're at home. See, the thing is, Southern Utah is not a terrible program, but yeah, this Arizona State team, don't sleep on them this year because they're definitely supposed to be a lot more improved than they were last season. So obviously, got to see how it turns out. But this could be a game where they clear that 30 points.
Yeah, the one thing that would be on my mind with that point spread is the fact that this is a freshman quarterback, and albeit a very good freshman quarterback, but he's a freshman quarterback, and we just don't know what it's going to be like. And normally freshman quarterbacks don't come out of the gate, doing spectacular things. I mean, when I say that, it's not like they throw for 6 touchdowns in the first game that they've ever played. A lot of them win and win convincingly. But that's a number that again, I may be wrong, but that's a big number to hit. That's a huge number to hit.
Well, it's also interesting how he didn't take the NIL money really, because by doing that, I think he's actually lowered expectation on himself for this season, just because he doesn't have he's not getting paid all this money, and it's not going to go to his head, and where he's and then maybe sometimes these players can get in their own head. You're getting paid all this money and not performing on the field, like. Right. it's never a good thing. So 100%, we'll see. Maybe he's opening the door for a much higher ceiling this year.
Yeah, that may be the way to go. All right, so let's go to our two big games of the night. We'll start off in the Big Ten with Nebraska at Minnesota. That game is an 8:00 start. It's going to air on Fox with Gus Johnson, of course, and Joe Klatt doing the game. Minnesota is at home. PJ Fleck has got a good team. Nebraska is hoping that they can be better than they have been. What's the line on this one?
Yeah, so this one it opened as a 7.5 for Minnesota, but recently they've dropped the hook, so it's now just 7 points. So not really a ton of value in this game on the spread side, just because obviously Minnesota's at home. They have that very good defense from last season. They don't give up a ton of points at all, but a lot of people I see have Nebraska as a massive question mark this year, just because we don't know what to expect from Matt Rule. They could come out and fall on their face, and Minnesota might just defensively suffocate them, or they could come out and look a lot better than we expected them and win this game. So it's interesting to me. I don't really have a good feel for this game. The total is 43. I would probably lean to the under a bit just because of the good defense on Minnesota. But these games when Nebraska, it's funny because when Minnesota goes to Nebraska, the games tend to stay under. But these games that are actually in Minnesota tend to be higher scoring games. So we'll see what happens in that one tonight.
People look at it. One of the things I think Matt Rule is going to be good for Nebraska, but Matt Rule ran a whole different setup than Scott Frost did from an offensive standpoint. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that I can say this. I'm pretty sure that Nebraska doesn't have the kind of Matt Rule players there yet. Maybe he got a few of them, but he runs the press offense, and Scott Frost didn't, and that requires a really different set of skills that may not be on that roster right now. I'm willing to give him, a good year for Nebraska this year would be winning 4 games in the conference. So that, Nebraska doesn't have great expectation. But I'm going to guess that his 24 class next year is probably going to be really good, and it's going to be because Matt Rule had a bad time at Carolina, got that. But Matt Rule's been a hell of a college football coach for many years. And so I never doubt Matt Rule. But he's on the other side, too. Another guy, PJ Fleck in Minnesota, is a coach as well. So, but I think, would you say it was like under 10, right?
Yeah, it was at 7 points. Exactly.
Yeah. But that might be doable for Minnesota, given what you said about the defense for sure. And, they may end, given Nebraska's propensity to turn the ball over, that 7 points might be made up by the defense alone. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, Matt Rule could turn around the program right away, but we've talked a lot about, these first games. He just got there, new system now. It's going to be tough to put it all together on the first game.
It's a conference game too.
Yeah. Again, we've talked a lot about these conference games to open up the season, and they're just killing these kids right out of the bat. But 100%, it's going to be a very tough game. First game of the season, you got to take on a conference team right away. Yeah, you haven't even got there. And as you mentioned with Oklahoma before in the Brent Venables situation, kind of the same situation there where he doesn't have necessarily the players that he needs there to run his style of offense. So it's going to be maybe, give him a year and you'll see this kind of improvement in Nebraska next season. But I totally agree with you. He's always been a great college football coach. He was just one of those guys, he took the jump to NFL and failed, like we see so many other college football coaches do. And that's saw, obviously Cliff Kingsbury with my team, and that's just what happens because it's a very different game, as we all know.
Then we've got Florida at number 14, Utah. That game, 8 o'clock ESPN, Chris Ballard, Herb Street. The A team is up there.
I know you'll be watching this one tonight, Jim.
I'll be paying attention. The big question.
Your future quarterback, Graham Mertz.
Maybe. We'll see. The question and the line, and it's like the line has moved out really on this game.
It's moved again, Jim.
It did it. Cam Rising, and his start tonight, whether he will or whether he won't. I don't know. I mean, right now they say that he's not expected to play in the opener against against that. Nate Johnson is there. He's the second string is Bryson Barnes. And Bryson Barnes has taken about 200 snaps with in-game situations last year. Nate Johnson is more of a running back, but also is a quarterback. I think we talked about this yesterday. They'll have some plays for Nate Johnson. That you can count on. But what Cam Rising was able to do last year when they played Florida at the Swamp was run. And that's something that he's not going to be doing this time. And then there's Graham Mertz starting for Florida as opposed to Anthony Richardson. And again, not going to be a lot of running. So we're going to see two statue quarterbacks here. We got two guys who are going to likely dink and dunk their way down the field. So this is going to be interesting. If Cam Rising plays, again, like I said, I don't think he's going to run. Bryson Barnes, I think it's fair to say he's untested. And Nate Johnson is just a raw athlete. So, again, that makes the lines funky again. So what were the lines on that one again?
Yeah, so this is one where I don't think you can really trust the reports just because, it opened as a 7.5 for Utah, right. And then we saw it get down to 4.5 right before week 0. Then as the week 0 games were going, or like basically later that night on the Sunday, they bumped it back up to 7.5. So it seemed like he was going to play. And then a few days later, they dropped it to 4.5 because obviously the reports are that he's not going to play. So I woke up this morning, it was 4.5. Now it's moved to 5, maybe just because money is still coming in on Utah. But at the same time, you can't trust what Utah says either because they had that one game last year where Rising was supposed to play and they pulled him right at kickoff without telling anybody and sat him for the entire game because of an injury. So this is one where, the reports say he's out, but maybe they decide, he's good to go at kickoff. Let's throw him in there. So really, I have zero trust in what this Utah program says.
Well, here's what I think is going to happen regardless of whether Cam Rising plays or not. Both of these teams are going to try to run. That's one part. I think that's going to, Florida has probably two of the best running backs in the conference. And so they're probably going to try to run the ball and minimize we just said, or I just said, that Nate had taken 200 snaps. To give you an example, Graham Mertz has taken over 2,000 snaps as a starting quarterback. So it's not going to be any kind of terrifying experience for Graham Mertz to play. He's got the shoulder, the chip on the shoulder that, okay, people are saying that, basically I'm just a placeholder here. So there's that. But I think that one of the things and we really haven't spoken about it, but there's a new rule in college football this year. And that is that when you get a first down, the clock doesn't stop. It's like the pros now. So that's going to speed the game up. And if you're going to run and the game's going to be sped up by not, not stopping the clock when you get a first down, then you can shorten the game. And so that I think both teams want to shorten this game. I don't think they want to try pass a lot of passes. I don't think if Rising starts, I don't think you see. I don't think you'll see 30 or 40 passes by Cam Rising in that game. I don't think that Mertz will throw a lot. Look for Mertz to throw a lot to the backs, and they got tight ends and they got backs that they can yards after catch is going to be a big thing for Florida tonight. If they have a big night on yards after catch, then they can win. If they pound the ball with running, we'll see. But defensively, Utah's always been good. They're playing it, at Rice-Eccles, where they haven't lost in 3 years. So it's going to be. And the other thing that concerns me about Florida, I don't think it's going to be a problem early, but it could be late, and that's the altitude. I think that they'll play the first half. I don't think it'll bother them, but I think they're going to be winded when the third or fourth quarter comes around because they're not used to it. I mean, last year it was Utah had to get used to the humidity, and now this year it's going to the others shoes on the other foot, and it's going to be altitude. So I think it's going to be close. I think Utah's going to win, but I think it's going to be a close game.
Yeah, and especially I agree with you that with the altitude, it'll probably come into play late, especially if they're running the ball as much as you expect Florida to run the ball. Then that's definitely going to their lungs are going to be on fire by the time we hit halftime for sure.
They're going to be needing those little oxygen things as best they can use them.
Yeah, and I know you also didn't love the travel tactic that Billy Napier took on his way up there. Let's fly into Dallas 2 days before,
right?
And then we'll fly into Utah the day before.
Yeah, it's I know the altitude is 700 feet above sea level in Dallas, so there you go. There's your altitude. But it is a difference. But yeah, I think this game has got all the earmarks of a very close game, and I think under those circumstances, I mean, you have to favor Utah because they're at home. They haven't lost in that building, for, as I said, 3 years. And there's going to be, the crowd's going to be absolutely geeked out. I mean, I've spoken to a number of people who are going and Utah's excited about this game. So,
it's a revenge game.
It's a revenge game. And Florida's excited about it too. So there's going to be some Florida fans out there at Rice-Eccles. And it'll be a very entertaining game. I'm hoping. I almost said I know, but no, I don't know. I'm hoping it's a very entertaining game. But again, I gotta go with Utah in a close game here because I just think even if Cam doesn't play, that they have enough solid players. They know the scheme. They know everything that's going on. That's going to give them an advantage that I don't think Graham Mertz has, even though I think Graham Mertz, as the season will go on, will be better. And he may be like a Kyle Trask was for Dan Mullen back in the day when Kyle was there, that nobody had no expectations about him. But Trask was able to take them to the championship game in the SEC. I'm not saying Graham Mertz is going to do that, but I am going to say that maybe people are underestimating him because of the talent that he has around him at Florida that he didn't have around him in Wisconsin. But we'll see. I don't think that tonight is the night that Graham Mertz has a coming out party. It'd be great if he did, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, well, like we said, we've touched on a lot about these first games, and it's going to be a lot tougher, obviously, for the team with the new quarterback than the team that might have to throw their third string in there, but the guys have been there and know the system, and they're at home with their altitude advantage.
The one thing that Rising's coming back with that, the torn knee. that's something that usually takes even longer to get fixed. So I tend to believe he probably won't play, but he hasn't taken snaps. I mean, he's taken snaps recently, yes, but all the snaps in spring and all the snaps prior have been taken by Bryson and by by Nate Johnson. So it's not like these guys, are not used to the offense. They haven't exactly run the offense in game situations, but they have taken the snaps and they have a rhythm down. So at least they know the rhythm of the offense. I don't know that Graham Mertz knows the rhythm of the Florida offense just yet, but we certainly will see tonight 8 o'clock on ESPN. So there you go. That's our games for the day. We'll have a bunch of them tomorrow as well. Let's take a quick look over at the Major League scoreboard. And all 4 games. Here we go. The game in the afternoon, Tigers up on the Yankees, bottom 6, 3-0. Marlins, Nationals tonight, first pitch, 7:05. Garrett on the hill from Miami. And Adone is pitching for Washington. Giants, Padres, 9:40, big game there for the Giants. I don't have a pitcher for San Francisco. Avila is pitching for San Diego. Braves at Dodgers. That's a preview of things to come in October. Strider, 15-4. Their number 1 pitcher is on the hill for the Braves, and Mr. Lynn is on the hill for the boys in blue, the Dodgers. So you have a pitcher on the San Francisco game?
I don't. It's been unlisted since last night. It's one of those games. Might be a bullpen day for the Giants.
They've had some key games down the stretch here, so maybe maybe that, or maybe they just are. I was going to say maybe they're just psyching out the Padres, but it's the Padres. They haven't been doing anything anyway, so
strategic advantage.
Strategic. Why? I don't know. Maybe it'll be Blake Snell. Who knows?
Did you hear about what Indiana did to Ohio State?
No.
Oh, Tom Allen wouldn't. He was asked about if the kicking competition, if he's decided on a starting kicker, and Tom Allen told the media, "Yes, we have a starting kicker, but I will not be releasing it to the public because got to have that advantage over Ohio State." I'm sure they're shaking in their boots, not knowing who the kicker is.
Well, the kicker's only good for you if you need field goals, extra points, and kicking off. Otherwise, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, like someone has to remind him who he's playing. You need touchdowns, not field goals.
Right. You can kick all you want to, but that guy may never see. Other than kicking, if they lose the toss, that may be the last time you see that kicker on the field. So yeah, don't get too cocky there, boys. So we'll get there from that standpoint. Well, all right. So we've had a lot of fun doing some college football. We'll have more games for you tomorrow, and then a whole weekend's worth of stuff coming up from Major League Baseball, soccer, and everything. So for sure, let's talk about where you can find Mr. Amadeus, your work, which we now have obviously have always had in the show box, but just reminding our group where to find it.
Yes, you can get my picks at bigal.com and pickadvisor.com. Both of those links are in the description below. Tonight, I have 2 plays on the Copa Sudamericana for some soccer, and I got 1 in the college football with this lovely slate tonight. So go check that out. And, tomorrow and the weekend, I will have lots more college football and soccer up for sure.
All right, gang. Have a lovely day. We'll see you tomorrow. And we're going to delve into Friday and Saturday's football. All right. Until then, take care, everybody.